would be great.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So thank y'all so much for being here. I want to thank y'all for joining us today. And before I introduce our speaker, I want to remind you that we're recording the presentation, and Jyoti will be she'll be telling you how she would like for you to communicate. So mute your volume until you're asked to speak, and she would like your video on, if we could do that, if it's possible. And as you know, it's not a come and go session, so be sure to stay for the entire time to get credit. And now I'm going to introduce our speaker, which I'm super excited about. So Jyoti Shankar is the founder of Mind Your Gaps. She has a rich and varied experience in corporate learning and development. And Mind Your Gaps specializes in training, learning, service design, user interaction, design services, and customer experience. And I know she has a wealth of knowledge, and she's going to share that with us today. So I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean. I'm looking forward to this interaction as well. So I am Jyoti, and my little consultancy is called Mind Your Gaps. I'll tell you a little more about it as we go on. So first, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. I'd like everyone to remain on mute. And if you have any questions, please do type it in the chat box. I can't promise to look at it right away, but I'll look at it every now and then. Okay. And I would suggest keep the phones away and look at it at 1:30 if you can. And also, if you can be on video, it would be more like an in-person class, and I think we'll have a little more fun. Okay. Okay, so let's get started. I have to share my screen. Let me do that. Okay. Is everyone seeing this? I have to do, okay. Is everyone seeing this? Okay, just give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay. So if you see me looking away from the camera, that's because I have two screens. Okay, so most of the time I'll try to look at you. The objective of today's workshop, today's session, is that you will understand the importance of self-assessment. Okay, this is something that I sent out to you as an Excel spreadsheet, and I hope you all took the time to fill it out. And this is going to be used as a foundation for today's workshop, okay? And you'll be able to better create and utilize your job search tools and strategies, and you'll understand the important aspects of interviewing, and finally, a little bit about business interactions and communications. So what I'm going to do is try and focus on aspects that are typically not handled by your career centers, okay, in your universities. So they talk a lot about, cover letters, resumes, and things like that. So I'm not going to focus on the format of it, but I'm going to be talking about what are the important elements and how you can use that to your advantage. Someone says, mind your gaps is like the mind the gap on British trains. And that is very true. I'll tell you a little about it when I introduce myself a little more. So the agenda for today, we already went over housekeeping, and we're going to talk about the elevator pitch. We're going to do the self-assessment, or rather we're going to talk about it. And then I'll talk a little bit about job search tools and strategies and interviewing and business interactions and communications. Okay. So let's start with introductions. Okay, so if we were in an in-person class, depending on the number of people, we might introduce ourselves, or we can do group introductions and so on. But today, I think since we are about 10, let's spend a little bit of time getting to know each other. So I would like you to tell me what your name is, what you're studying, if you're a junior or a senior at college, and then when do you finish? And also tell the group, what is the one thing that you want us all to know about you? Okay, keep it short, less than a minute. And so let's get started. One after the other, you can unmute yourself and talk. Thank you. Okay, who wants to go first?
I can go first. So my name's Abigail Tarbatian. I'm studying psychology at SMU. I'm a junior currently, and I have about 3 semesters left. It really depends on if I do more summer courses or not. And I should be finishing in 2021 or 2022.
You want to tell us about the one thing that we all should know about you? Anything fun?
One fun thing, I've really gotten into like stock market trading recently. So since 2018, but now it's gotten much more profoundly growth. It's crazy. And I've gotten a really nice phone call from the vice president of Merrill Lynch talking to me about my portfolio, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
My name is Gabrielle Montemar. I'm currently studying, I'm getting a Bachelor's of Science with Forensic Certification at UNT. I'm a senior and I have basically just the spring semester left, and then I finally graduate. And I think the one thing I'd like to share about myself is just that I really love my job a lot, and I'm very grateful to have that passion, because I know that's a problem a lot when it comes to people getting jobs, is that they don't do a job that they love. So yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
My name is Corey Bork. I'm doing interdisciplinary studies in mathematics and computer science at UTD. I'm a junior, and I'm hoping to graduate in 2021. And something about me, I deliver cookies for a living, so I really enjoy doing that.
Wow, nice. We could have had some of that in person. Cookies.
Yeah, we usually just leave it for people where they can pick it up without us having to be there, but yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Genesis. I am studying accounting at Texas State, and I'm a senior. I should graduate, I think like next fall. And one thing, if I could travel the world right now, I would, if it was, better, but I would love to travel the world.
Well, thank you. That resonates with me a lot. Go on ahead.
Hi, my name is Nema Mwidhiga. I'm currently a senior over at UTD. I'm studying finance, and I'm set to graduate in the spring semester. And something about me, I love traveling and hope that I can go travel around the world this summer, if that's possible with everything going on. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful to know. I just lost my second screen, so I'm struggling a little. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Priscilla. I'm studying at Texas Tech marketing. I'm a junior, and I believe I'm gonna finish spring 2022. And one thing that I love is traveling. I'm from Peru, so I love going over there and exploring different areas of my country. It's really fun.
Very nice. Thank you. Anyone else left to introduce themselves?
Okay, do you want some coaches and some board members on the call? Do you want them to introduce themselves?
Yeah, sure. With the
Okay.
format, but sure. Yeah, that would be nice.
All right, so John, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm John Caldwell. I worked at the corporate offices of J.C. Penney for 35 years in New York, and then we moved down to Plano. I retired, and for the past 6 years, I've been a substitute teacher for Plano schools, mainly science, math, and engineering. It's a lot of fun, but I'm taking a sabbatical because of COVID.
Hey everyone, my name's Kim Ludwig, and I'm a board member with Hendricks Scholarship Foundation. And when I was your age, I was at University of Iowa studying international business, and crazy as it may seem, studied Japanese language. So that was my little niche in the market. Thanks.
Lovely to hear there's so many people who are so global or intend to be.
I can go. I am Shelley Strickland. I'm a current board member. And that was fun when you said that back in your age, Kim. So I went to University of Central Florida, grew up in Texas, but I went to school in Orlando, Florida, home of Mickey Mouse, and studied organizational communications, got minors in business, speech, and PR, and then later went back and got my MBA from UCF as well. So just thrilled to be here.
Yay. And so I'm Jean Callison. I'm a board member, and I also coordinate all the workshops. And I have a BBA and an MBA from Baylor.
So really nice to meet you all. And are we done with everyone else's introductions? I think we are, right? So let me. Okay, so I am Jyoti. My name is pronounced like Joe as in Joe and T as in think. I am the primary consultant and owner of my two-person consultancy. It's called Mind Your Gaps. And it specializes both in coaching and training, as well as design. So I won't talk about the design aspect too much because it's not very relevant here, but it is mostly to do with improving all kinds of experiences, whether it's customer experience or user experience or learner's experience. So in the course of my career, I've of course been doing training and coaching people in the corporate world. And my focus there is to do with cross-cultural training, because I've had the opportunity to work both in the UK as well as in Australia for a few years. And I realized, because I was in the learning and development world, I realized that the kind of superficial training that they give you when you move countries is not going to really be that helpful when you are in the workplace. It helps to settle down in the new country, but not so much in the workplace, because you do need to understand a lot of cultural nuances when you are, when you're leading a team or when you're negotiating and all kinds of things. So that is my passion. I like to do cross-cultural training. And of course, I like to travel a lot. And I do that whenever I can, on work and off work. So that's me. And so what we did right now was we all introduced ourselves. This is what we would do when we went to an interview or a networking event, right? So of course, if you're in a networking event or an interview, you will have to extend or expand on everything that we just did. So, and depending, if you went, say, for an interview lunch, then it needs to be more conversational. But the one thing you really need to pay attention to is it's not a very social conversation, right? You want someone to know about you, but you don't want to tell them details that is not professional, right? You don't want to tell them about a tattoo you got or a beach you went to and that sort of thing. So be careful about how you interact with people during settings like an interview lunch. And we can talk about that a little more as we go on. And never let your guard down. And even if the interviewer is being friendly, you need to kind of just take a step back and make sure that you don't get too familiar, and even if you know them. And as in every setting, you got to maintain that eye contact, the firm handshake, the body posture, squared shoulders, not be restless, moving your hands and legs, and be clear and confident. So these are things that career centers will typically equip you with. So I'm not going to get into the details of these aspects, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, the one thing I want to do today is want to make sure that you all have an elevator pitch. So have you heard of what an elevator pitch is? Can you please put that in the chat if you've heard about it or not? Just say yes or no in the chat window. Okay. So I see everyone saying yes. So the idea of, I'm not going to go into what it is, but basically the idea is to quickly communicate who you are, to the listener. And the elements of an elevator pitch is you got to kind of wrap everything up into like this 30 or 60-second pitch. Tell them who you are, what your goal is, what do you do, what is your unique selling point, that's USP, okay? And then lead it up with a question so that they're engaged with you, right? Don't just talk about yourself and stop, but kind of end it with a question. And we're going to talk about how to do this. We sent you a handout that was called assignments. So if you can please bring that up. Let me also share that screen with you. So you just have to give me a moment to share my screen. For some reason, there's nothing I see in the bottom of my Zoom screen. I'm not seeing my share window.
Is it the chart or the?
I'm trying to share the one that says assignments. It's not the chart.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened to my Zoom.
This one.
I mean, I'm not seeing anything at the bottom like I should be. Does anyone have a clue where I should be looking?
No.
So I think, okay, it's kind of hidden. Okay, new share. Okay, I think I got it. Let me know if
Yes.
you can see it.
Yep.
Right? Okay, sorry about that. So if I go to the top of my, if you see the top of your document, it says assignment number 1. That's an elevator pitch.
Yes.
So what I've done is I've given you an example. So this says, hi, I'm Jamie. Nice to meet you. I'm the person you would reach out to if you need any graphic design work done, if you're a graphic designer. I am currently a freelancer, but I'm looking for more full-time opportunities now. I would be willing to start in a month. I would be able to help you to market your business, like if you want to have brochures, your website, and all kinds of other marketing material. I have a portfolio and I'll be happy to share it with you. So it does not have to be exactly in verbose, like the way it's been written, but that's the general idea of an elevator pitch. So, and then you end it with a question where you say, may I share it with you, so that you give the other person an opportunity to respond, so they're telling you, we would love to see it, or would you share it with us? And so that's kind of an opening that you're giving them, right? Versus just stopping the end of the elevator pitch. So, and if they, if they continue having a conversation, maybe you can elaborate a little more and you talk about what you bring to the table, right? So then you could tell them a few of your strengths. That could be, oh, I'm a problem solver. I pay a lot of attention to detail, and my clients, my work proves that, my clients are happy with me and things like that. So that doesn't have to be in the 30 or 60-second pitch, but that is a conversation follow-up. And now I just want to spend a few minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, where I would like you to utilize this example. Do you see what I'm highlighting?
You're still on page 4, so you would want to scroll up a little bit.
Can you see it now?
It's still stuck on page 4 of 5, setting goals.
Okay, let me do this again.
There.
Okay. Okay, so I'm on page 2 of your assignment. I would like you to write a quick elevator pitch while we are on this call right now, and just use this template, the one I'm highlighting, and fill out everything in the blank spaces. Yeah. Okay. So I would like you to do that in the next 5 to 7 minutes, starting now. And please send me a message if you have any questions on this. Okay, that's about 5 minutes. So is that enough time, or shall we keep going for another minute or so? Yeah, people done? Can you just give me a thumbs up if you are? Okay. Okay, so normally what I do in a workshop is to get people to read it out, but we don't have time to go over everyone's elevator pitch. So why don't just two of you volunteer to read out your elevator pitches? Any two of you who has it ready.
I can read mine.
Okay.
Let me pull it up real quick. Alrighty. Mine is, hi, I'm Corey Bork. I'm currently a student at UTD majoring in interdisciplinary studies. I'm looking for full-time employment. I'm trained in machine coding and I'm ready to start programming. I've written numerous projects and apps, and I'd be very happy to show you some of those if you've got the time. Do you have any current openings in your I didn't really finish this part, but do you have any current openings in your business? And I'd be happy to talk more on the phone anytime.
Great. Thank you.
I can go as well.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Genesis Thomas. I'm currently a student at Texas State majoring in accounting. I'm looking for an internship. I am working on my master's and will be CPA eligible spring 2022. I have taken both tax and audit, and I'm looking for a position in auditing. I would be very happy to send you my resume, and do you know of any positions at your firm? I would be happy to talk to you more detail on getting an internship there or any possible positions. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So yes, I got a couple of comments in the chat box. John mentions that it would be great to tell the students to always look at the company website before an interview or any networking events, right? Like it's always a good idea if you know what companies are going to be showing up. It's always a good idea to look them up and get at least a bird's eye view of what is it that they're doing, right? And then if it's an interview, of course, you need to do a lot of in-depth research, but we will get to that in the interviewing part of our workshop. And if you know people, if you have, shown people your work, make sure you get recommendations. That goes a long way, always. Okay, so next. Self-assessments. So I hope you all got some time to spend on the self-evaluation spreadsheet that I had sent a few days ago. Thumbs up? All right. Okay, beautiful. So this spreadsheet, I think this is something that you really need to do throughout your career. Every now and then, get a professional snapshot of yourself. Okay, so it's not just when you're looking for a job. This is very few of us will do this, but it's a really good tool to use. And so in the spreadsheet, what you did was you kind of identified what kind of a job, what kind of a role was important to you, what were your personal goals and likes and dislikes, what kind of an organization you would like to be working for, right? So I hope this was a useful exercise for you to do. What did you think? You want to give me a thumbs up or write anything in the chat box? What did you think of this exercise? Have you done something like this before? Okay. Did you find it useful? Yes? No?
Yes.
Neutral? Is this neutral?
Yeah, it's neutral.
Okay.
There's some questions I've already thought about, and then others I wasn't sure how to answer, but it did get me thinking about the future, which was
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea, to get you thinking about, you know, because there's so many companies, you know, you just need to kind of focus. And maybe at this point, like in COVID times, you're thinking any job is a good, okay job. But this is something that you always need to be thinking about. Okay, so again, a couple of people, maybe if you can pipe up and tell me what would be your ideal job based on what you filled out. Any two volunteers? Unmute, speak. Or what your ideal job would be based on what you filled out. Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it didn't really give me like a specific job in mind, but it did give me some things to think about that I hadn't considered before. And it kind of just revealed to me that like having a lot of independence is really important in a job, for it to be like satisfying or not or not as stressful. So an ideal job for me would involve a higher level of independence.
Okay. Okay, great. So yeah, I would encourage all of you to kind of go through this and write out an ideal profile. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you need to only apply to those kind of jobs, but that's what you would strive for, right? Make sense? Okay, next. Okay, so what you did was more of a likes, dislikes kind of the ideal job scenario. The other thing you could do is there are personality assessment tests available online. Some are free, some are paid, but or your career center might let you take one, like the Myers-Briggs or the Berkman. That will give you a good idea of your own personality. You know, I think the biggest challenge that many people have is that they don't have a very good cognition of their own strengths and weaknesses at times. So it's better to always be aware of it than be blindsided by what you don't know. So I would really encourage everyone to take a personality assessment test, and that is, some employers also, as you know, these days, it's really common for employers to give you a test or ask questions that would tell them about your personality. So some of these personality traits, I've just listed them out here, are you a calm person, emotional? Are you detail oriented? Are you proactive, energetic, introvert, extrovert? And there's really nothing really wrong with saying sometimes that you're an introvert. Depends on how you position it. Just don't use all the good adjectives always, because that doesn't come across as honest. But learn how to sort of use things like, I am a quiet person, to your advantage. You don't have to be a garrulous person or a talkative person, but if you are a quiet person, learn how to talk about it in an interview to turn it to your advantage, right? I'm quiet, I'm introspective, I like to sit and solve a problem. I'll share it with my team, I'll work with my team, but you know, I'm a very introspective person. So try to sort of think about these aspects before the interview, because these are the behavioral questions that often come up, right? And again, the personality assessment will tell you what kind of a person you are. Innovative, do you like doing research-based activities? Are you an analytical person? Would you like to work in ambiguity, or you're someone who waits for all information to come in before you can take the next step, things like that. So this is the advantage of doing a personality assessment. Any questions so far? You can unmute and ask if you like. Okay, so some people did say that, yeah, for them, the benefits that the company offered was something that was important. And yes, students should not be asking, even if you like the idea of having a vacation, paid vacation, because of business travel or whatever it is, this is not something you would ask in an interview upfront. So we will talk more about that in the interviewing section. So there is a question says, where can you take these personality assessment tests? What I'll do is after this call, I will try to kind of send you some sources, or if you Google on free personality assessment tests, you will find a couple of them. You know, I'm sorry, I've lost my other screen, so I'm going to have to refer to my paper because I can't see my slides now. So anyway, we already talked about how this, knowing your own personality helps. It helps in your job search strategies. You can prioritize what companies you want to apply to. You can use it while writing your cover letters and your resume. And as you know, an interview is never a one-way street. It's not about the interviewer asking you all the questions. You have to ask questions too. So it kind of gives you a baseline for what are the types of questions that you can ask. And knowing your personality always helps, like I said. I can't emphasize that enough.
Does Hendrick offer a resume workshop?
Yeah, I do. But since I'm trying to cram everything to 1.5 hours on this call, I'm more broad than deep.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So like I said, yeah, this is called, I'm not going to go too deep into this. This is called a personal SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is recognizing your own strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can make use of opportunities that there are that you may not be looking at, and what are the possible barriers that you might have, right? So look at, I have put this in your handout, in the assignment handout. I would encourage you to look at this SWOT analysis and write out, things that your own strengths, your own weaknesses, what opportunities do you have or you need to create, and what are the threats or the barriers that you're facing. So I would say fill this out, and I'm sure you all have a coach or a mentor, right? Just share it with your coach or mentor. That would be, I think, really a useful exercise for you to do. Okay. So in your assignment, I have something called reflection, where I would like you to reflect upon yourself, upon everything we already talked about, and share that with your mentor. Okay. So you'll find all the details in the handout, so I'm not going to go over it, but basically you're creating yet another snapshot of yourself. Okay. So it's very important to think about what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable, and so on. And so make sure that you all have a mentor or a coach, correct? So make sure that I would leave it to them if they want to give you some kind of a date by when you need to share this, but I would highly encourage you to, work on this. Okay. So if you want, we can take a few minutes. If you, let's say that you want to set a goal for yourself, right? Any goal that you set has to be SMART. And what's a SMART goal? A SMART goal is, SMART stands for something that's very specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant to what you do, and it's time bound. Okay, you see these 5 things that I've put on the right of the slide. This is called a SMART goal. So let me give you an example of a SMART goal, right? So maybe your SMART goal would be, by the end of this week, I'll have my elevator pitch ready and I will practice it twice a day. Is that specific? It is very specific. Is that measurable? Very measurable, because at the end of the week, you have done it or you haven't done it. It's measurable. Attainable. It's very attainable. Is it relevant? It's relevant to what you're trying to do. Search for a job. So you want to have an elevator pitch ready. And is it time bound? Yes. By the end of this week, I'm going to have my elevator pitch ready, right? So that's one example of an elevator pitch. I'm sorry, of a goal. Let me think of another one. Another SMART goal. So let's say it's nothing to do with work. Let's say that my goal is to stop eating potato chips by the end of this week. Is it a SMART goal?
Yeah.
Is it specific? It is.
Yes.
Is it measurable? I don't know. Maybe I eat 5 potato chips a day. It may or may not be measurable. Is it attainable? It is, yes, attainable. Is it relevant? It is not relevant. Is it time bound? Yes. I want to stop eating potato chips by the end of the week. So it's not satisfying all of these 5. It's only satisfying 3 or maybe 4, right? So make sure when you write your SMART goal that it satisfies all 5 and you keep it relevant to your job search. Yeah? Okay. Any questions? Yes, John?
Yeah, and at Penny, we would do SWOT analyses and we would do SMART goals. These
Excellent.
are concepts that have been around for decades. Yes. Because they're relevant at many stages of life.
Correct. And this, the unfortunate thing is career centers are overloaded with, having to work with thousands of students, depending on your college. And they talk about resumes and formats and cover letters and, some interviewing, they do mock interviews, but they don't get into these kind of assessment. I mean, they might talk about assessments, but unless you have a coach or a mentor who's not overloaded, they're not going to be giving you a lot of attention or getting you to work on these things. And to me, these are the building blocks of any job search strategy, your building of resume and so on. So that's why I want to talk more about assessments and goals and that sort of thing, rather than talk about the nitty-gritty of, the resume itself, which is important, but that is another workshop because it takes time to do that. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so moving on to job search tools and strategies. Okay, so this is something I already mentioned, saying that the University Career Center can help with some things, but not with everything. So you need to take it upon yourself to make sure that you're getting the most out of your mentor or your coach by doing these kind of assignments, doing these kind of exercises. Okay, so the Career Center is going to already they have a plan and they'll tell you about job posts, job boards, career fairs, networking events, and that sort of thing. But apart from that, you can tap into your network of family and friends, join LinkedIn. How many of you are on LinkedIn already? Is that most of you? Okay, so I think most of you are on LinkedIn. How many of you belong to any special interest groups on LinkedIn? Anyone? So that's something I think would be really useful for a job search, because people, when you are in a special interest group and you start posting or responding to other people's posts, people notice, right? There are hiring managers who are on those LinkedIn groups, and they might notice. So you never know who's on it. So this is something very important on LinkedIn is, I think, the best tool that's available to you out there for your job search. And also, I mean, you can join local meetups. They have the Young Professionals meetup. I think even the Plano Chamber of Commerce has a young professionals group.
Yep.
Correct. And join professional societies. I think if you're a computer science student, then you have the ACM, and it depends on what you're doing, but every career, every specialization has some kind of a special interest professional society that you could belong to. And you're lucky that as students, a lot of these are either paid for or free, or they're paid for by the universities, or they're discounted and so on. So make use of these kind of resources. I just want to make sure that we are good on time. What's the time? I can't even see that.
12:50.
Okay. I put away my phone, so anyway. So this is next. How do you organize and have an action plan for your job search? So always create yourself a spreadsheet and make sure that you make a list of the companies that you're applying to, who your key contacts are for that company, what is their titles, phone numbers, emails, and you also always need to have columns for where was the job posted, a link to the job description, because a lot of times you may have applied and you may not find the job description again. So it's important to always store that in a place that you can access. And then the date that you applied for the job and status of your application, where you are. Has an HR person responded? Have you already had an interview? You're waiting for the next steps and things like that. Make sure that you update this table once a week. And that way you can stay on top of things. Okay, and I don't expect you to read the screen. I know you can't.
Just one thing.
Yes.
See, when you meet people, you'll exchange business cards. Take their business card, put on the back something to help you remember them. Because then when you contact them again, you can bring up that item or that connection. Very important, because if you got like 3 or 4 business cards, you're going to forget. You know, put the description, something to help you remember that specific person, that specific conversation.
Correct. Especially, you go to large events, it's like you get like 20 business cards. You never remember who you met. So, okay, good point. And this is a resume. I'm not expecting you to read this or be able to read this. What I want to point out here is just the important elements of your resume, which is name, email, phone, and a LinkedIn address always, your education, your experience, your jobs. And if you can put a link to a portfolio, that would be either under experience or under academic projects. Look at this person. This is too tiny, I agree, but I'm going to kind of show you an expanded version of this in a little bit. So academic projects, leadership experience and activities, your technical skills, and what's known as additional information. So you're trying to fit all this into one page, because as a newbie, nobody wants to read 2 pages of your resume typically, but listen to what your career center is saying, not just what I'm saying here, but typically it's 1 page long. You don't want to go beyond that. So your resume, again, it needs to be more of a show and tell. I mean, show rather than a tell. So don't say, I am an expert in da, da, da. That's not enough. You need to say why you're an expert in that field and show the reason why you're an expert in that field, right? So list your projects, but don't, even when you speak to someone, don't say, oh, I'm really good at this. You always need to have that story on why you're good at what you're saying. Okay, so this bullet is just telling you that these are the words that are used and overused by every candidate, right? Jake, I'm passionate, I'm creative, and recruiters are always like looking at you very skeptically when you say these things, right? So LinkedIn has a list of the most overused buzzwords, and I encourage you to take a look at that list. And then instead of describing yourself as, specialized or an expert, like I said, please give more detail or speak to it. So it needs to be more show versus tell. Now coming to that part of the resume that I was showing you, which is experience and projects. This is really important. What's important here is you need to, for every project that you describe, it's 2 lines, but you need to say, what was your role? For example, here this person says, business analyst. Who was your client, right? In this case, state what the problem was, which is not part of this resume. I'm sure that's because there's not enough space. And say what the outcome was. I increased annual website traffic growth by 100% by designing and implementing a solution to revamp the client's website functionality. So that was the outcome. So, and then what did you do, right? Here you don't want to be too descriptive, but you need to have that story during an interview to tell them what you did. What were the tools that you used, right? So this is the most important part of your resume. So, and this circle here is the most important thing that you need to pay attention to, right? While you're writing out your resume. Any questions or comments on this? Yeah, I see there's a question on any suggestions on the template. So there are many resume templates, and I would, I have a couple of templates that I really like to use, and I can share that later, maybe after the call, or you can also talk to people in your career centers. There are many resume formats. And yes, suggestion from John is internships are very important. I think internships are very important. Make sure that every summer or when you get a break, you are on an internship, and preferably something that is relevant to your area of work rather than, working in something that's totally off. Although that has its advantages, you do learn a lot of life skills, not to minimize that, but if you can find something in your area of work, nothing like it. So now coming back to the words that you use in your resume, Harvard has a list of 195 resume action verbs. So this is something you can Google on. I've also put it in your handout in the assignment document that I shared with you. So some of the more, when you see this part of the resume that I shared two screens ago, I see the use of these words like lead, analyze, supplemented, acquired, I won majorities and whatever, I utilized. So these are pretty good, but not as strong as, or not as impactful as saying like, I directed, I guided, I facilitated, I coached, or I designed. These are verbs that are, that have impact, right? And then there are a few others here that are less impactful. So make a call, make a decision based on the projects that you've worked on. And then coming to this part of the resume, you're stating any leadership experience and activities that you might have, which is of course very specific to you. Any technical, what are the technical skills and the tools that you have used, right? Excel, Python, Java, this is of course for an IT computer science person. And then additional information, list any certifications or extracurricular activities, and if it's relevant, if it's applicable to you, then state your eligibility or your visa status and so on. Okay, more about LinkedIn profiles. Like I said, I can't emphasize the power of LinkedIn enough. So use it, use it, use it. That's what I would say. A LinkedIn profile that is complete will show up on Google search. And here, these are some stats. Like it says 40 times more likely to hear of a job or opportunity via LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has a premium membership, and it's useful to have that, and students get a discount on it. And then there is a flag which you can turn on if you're looking for a job. So recruiters are always scouring LinkedIn to see who might be available. So if they see this flag that's on, they will a lot of times approach you. Okay, so recruiters often picked up on that. So is this something you knew about? I would like to hear from you either on chat or give me a thumbs up. Have you heard about this feature on LinkedIn? No. Okay, so use the LinkedIn flag. That's really important. Okay. What else about LinkedIn? I have slides about LinkedIn because I really love it, and I think people need to use it more. So what else can you do on LinkedIn? You can find out who you're interviewing with, their level, their role in the company. You can find a lot about the company, its revenue, and whatnot. Okay, and like I said, join groups on LinkedIn, contribute to discussions and questions, post your own questions, keep it to your field of expertise, and you'll see that people always respond. People love to talk on social media, like you know. And follow some influencers on LinkedIn, okay? It could be Bill Gates, it could be a CEO of your organization, anyone you admire, you know. And very importantly, post a professional picture of yourself. There are guidelines on what your LinkedIn profile picture should look like. So please Google on it and find out what those criteria should be. You know, you don't want to show a very funky pink-haired picture of yourself on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm trying to read the chat every now and then, but since I don't have two screens, I'm finding it a little hard. So like, talking about cover letters, I'm not going to again cover much about this, except to say that never create one cover letter and use it for all of your apps, all of your applications with your resume. That doesn't work. Okay, so I know it's a lot of work. I think the cover letter takes a lot of time, as it takes time to fill out every application. It's a grueling process, but don't ever cut short on the cover letter, right? You need to see what the job description is, what the requirements are, and respond to at least 2, 3, or 4 of those requirements, saying, think, okay, this is the requirement. What do I bring to the table to fulfill that requirement? Okay, so that's how you customize it, and always tell them why you are the best candidate for this job, just as you would in an interview, right? So very important to also show your understanding of their company in one sentence, and to say why you are very keen on interviewing with them. So for example, it could be like a company like Electronic Arts, right? They do a lot of video games, and you just love using their products or their games. And you could say, hey, I went to a networking meeting, or, where I met a bunch of people from Electronic Arts, or I love your games, and I've always dreamed of being a game developer. So kind of speak to, make it more personal, right? All right. So coming to interviews. Okay, so always, now that interviews are a lot on Zoom, I have this slide that tells you how to set it up. So light, camera, action, Zoom, because you're not going for in-person interviews as much. So what is important is pick a place with natural light, or always adjust your lighting so that your face is clear and well lit and not overly bright. So your light source has to either be in front of you or at a 45-degree angle. Okay, don't let the light source be behind you, or let the windows be open. Like I have darkened my room and I have a light source right in front of me. So that's important. And then make sure that you are at eye level with your camera. Okay, and try to focus on the camera when you are speaking in an interview. And if you're using 2 monitors, make sure you're still looking at the monitor that has the camera. So these are some very basic Zoom etiquette and Zoom rules, if you will. On the day of the interview, okay, very important to dress professionally, even if it is a virtual interview. Please dress up as you would for an in-person interview. Okay, it kind of gives you that power. And then be on time. If it's in person, of course, you will always try to be 15 minutes early. You don't want to be stuck in traffic. And then, there's the usual things that everyone will tell you about: making eye contact, the firm handshake, squared shoulders, body language. You could have a workshop just on these kind of things. So here, this is, I'm just kind of touching these points to make sure that you remember. And then there is the lunch interview etiquette. This is for in-person interviews. Try not to eat things like salad with leaves, because the leaves tend to kind of stick in your teeth, things like this that you need to pay attention to.
No spaghetti. No spaghetti.
Yeah. No. And don't just because someone's paying for it, don't get yourself an alcoholic drink during the interview. Some other things, or after the interview, always request a business card like I think we touched upon it a little earlier, and write down who that person was and something to jog your memory about the person. And then after the interview, you always should thank the person and then send a follow-up email to thank the person and hit some of the most important points that popped up in your interview, right? Let's say you, after interviews, you think, oh my God, I forgot to mention something that I should have. That email, the post-interview email is your chance to mention that, okay? So please make a note of that. And on virtual interviews, during a Zoom interview, please don't use any fancy backgrounds on your Zoom calls. No beach, no parks, no nothing. Try to have a plain background. Also because a lot of times these things eat into your bandwidth, and you might have video issues or audio issues because of that. Make sure that you are in a room where nobody is going to be passing behind you, family, dog, whatever it is. So be careful about things like that. Keep water handy with a lid so that you don't spill it on your keyboard and if you're nervous, right? And then always make sure that you do the technology check the previous day. You need to turn the Bluetooth off because it interferes sometimes with audio. You check your mic and your headset, make sure you have a good connection. And maybe you can ask if what happens if you lose connectivity? Are they going to call you back, or all of those things? Now, coming to the aspects of interviews, you can unmute yourself if you don't mind. Some of you can tell me which aspects of interviews, if you have interviewed already, which aspects do you find most challenging and which aspects do you find easy? Have you people interviewed or not yet? Let me bring up chat to see if anyone's talking.
I have interviewed before, and I think the easiest parts would have to be introducing myself and recognizing my strengths and weaknesses. I think the biggest aspect that's challenging, especially now, is being Zoom. I'm not in an office, I'm in my bedroom. And on top of it, making eye contact with the camera is different than making eye contact with seeing you on my screen. So it looks like I'm not looking, but I'm looking directly at you speaking, but I'm not looking at the camera. So that's the that's the biggest issue I'm having.
So what should you do to fix that?
Just I've tried to adjust where the Zoom pictures are for the videos to have you as close as possible to the camera, so that reduces it.
Exactly. You know what you could do is, if you get yourself a free Zoom account, you could just click on Zoom. It'll bring up the video camera. You can just practice and set it up the way it needs to be. You can do that, and always videotape yourself, you know, at an angle. Just try to emulate the day of the interview, where you're going to be sitting, what you're going to be doing. Videotape yourself, play it back. That's going to tell you a lot. Yes?
I was thinking definitely that. I was thinking maybe putting some like tiny googly eyes next to my camera on my computer. So I'm looking at the googly eyes. So at least I'm making eye contact of some sort.
Yeah.
You know? Something fun.
Okay, I'm just looking at the comments. If anyone else wants to pipe in, I'm taking this opportunity to look at my chat.
I think for me, it's just preparing for the interview, because I tend to get super nervous, especially if it's before the interview is going to happen, because I get all like, what if I forget this? What if I forget to do that? And it's always been a matter of like, okay, just calm down. You've been practicing this for the past few days now. You just relax, and whatever happens, happens. You know, you've got this. That's always been my struggle.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is to be over prepared, if you ask me. You know, there is no shortcut to that, and I know everyone thinks they've done a lot of prep, but use these building blocks that I've just given you and just over prepare. It'll make you feel so much more comfortable. And there are a couple of tricks. I'll talk more about that, about those behavioral questions. I think to me, when I used to be a candidate, what used to make me nervous was the behavioral interviews, because some of these kind of questions, right? Like they'll ask you, what's your weakness? And you don't want to like come off sounding like so pompous that you don't have any weakness. So, and then you have to figure out, what do I say, right? To make myself look good in spite of my weakness, things like that. But I guess, yeah, everyone has some weakness or the other, and you need to learn how to sort of tackle that. We'll talk a little about that. Someone says, I find tell me about yourself is hard to answer. We will talk about tell me about yourself too. Okay, so let me move on to the next. And interviewing, it always helps to work with a friend so that you can kind of be each other's devil's advocates. Anyone does that? I think it's a good idea if you can pair up with someone, or also use your mentor to do mock interviews. So what are the recruiters looking for, right? You normally in the job description, you see like so much. It's almost like they're expecting you to be God, right? They want you to have all skills and problem solving. Are you someone who's like a problem solver, critical thinker? Are you a multitasker? All of these things, right? So are they going to be looking at all of these things when you're a new hire, if you have never worked before? Not always, right? Like some things are more important than others. So just because they have a very canned job description, and unfortunately, I have worked with HR and they find it too time consuming and too tedious to keep changing those soft skills aspects of your job description. So yeah, they want to put everything in there. They want everything, but you need to learn to wade through all the fluff and figure out the 2 or 3 things that is critical for that role, right? And then speak to that. So what are the interview types? So you have the behavioral interviews. Behavioral interviews are, those where you get to talk about your projects or your past experience, and the interviewer will use that to determine what kind of an employee or a hire you will be, right? So your past behavior will determine your future performance. And then there are the case study interviews. This is all about what kind of a problem solver are you? How do you use the information that's been presented to you to ask the right questions? How do you use your analytical skills, your critical thinking to ask those questions? Have you done your research? Have you researched the company, and are you asking all the right questions, based on your knowledge of the company? So they're not expecting you to give a mathematical answer. It's not about, okay, 2 + 3 is 5. They're looking for the way you think. They're not looking for the 5 as much. They're looking for the way you think and the way you simplify or break down the problem and how you approach it. That's what they're looking for. Okay, so don't be hung up on the end result. Be hung up on how you approach it. Okay, and then the third one is your technical interview or your functional skills. Not too many people can help you with that. You are, if you've done well academically, if you are a motivated person who goes beyond what you need to do, you're going to be strong. You're going to have a strong technical or foundation in your subject. You know, you could be a nurse, you could be a healthcare person. You would have put in enough work. You would have gathered enough knowledge to be able to crack this part of the interview really well. And then finally, these days they're doing a lot of brain teasers and assessments and video interviews where they send you questions and you're supposed to videotape the answers and send them back. Those are all time bound. Again, I'm going to emphasize on this a lot on this part of your resume. So you're going to think about when you talk in an interview, think about the role you played, who was your client. You could be a student, but then you have worked on certain projects and you still had a client. Talk about that. What was the problem you solved? What were the outcomes? What was your role? What were the tools that you used? Okay, so what are outcomes? Tell me, can anyone come up with an example of a good outcome? So you solved a problem. What was an outcome? It could be something like, I work in a call center, and we used to get a lot of complaints. We used to get 20,000 complaints a month. And because of the way I solved the problem, we cut it down to 5,000 a month. That's a very quantifiable outcome, right? So think about the project you did and what was the outcome, right? That's important. And it can be something like, I got a lot of compliments from my neighborhood. John, this is for you, for beautifying the neighborhood. I got 10 compliments. That's a quantifiable outcome of something you did. So,
actually, someone they saw me working on the sprinklers. They gave me a Starbucks gift card. They had seen me working months and months, and they bought a Starbucks gift card for me.
That is an awesome idea. And I think that is a great outcome, right? That you can talk to, saying there's nothing better than someone, giving you credit this way. And the other important thing is always think about what went well, what were the challenges you had, and what you would do differently the next time around. So that's the other thing there. That's a very, very common interview question. What would you do differently? So now coming to the tell me yourself part, let me just make sure I'm doing good on time. Yeah. So I'm not going to have a Q&A at an end because I'm giving you the opportunity to ask questions in between. So we should be good with time. So don't start walking through your entire resume when someone says, oh, tell me about yourself. What would you use if someone said, tell me about yourself? This is the time to use your elevator pitch, not the whole elevator pitch, but some parts of the elevator pitch to talk about yourself. And hit all the important notes. Tell them why you chose your major. What is your passion? What are you proud of academically? And maybe a quick list of 2 or 3 projects that you want them to ask you about, right? That's the way you control the interview. Tell them about things so that they'll ask you follow-up questions on your favorite things, right? And then tell them about, again, this is conversationally. You're not going to like keep rambling. Wait for them to kind of react to whatever you said. And then tell them about how you utilized your strengths, and now I would say refer to the self-assessment that you were made to do, the spreadsheet or the personality assessment test, and tell them about all those things that you're good at, as being a team player or a good communicator, you work well under pressure and things like that. And then if asked, then share anything that was challenging or what you thought was a negative and how you changed it into something positive and how people appreciated that after you turned it into something positive. So it's not something where you just were bad at something, you started getting better at it and nobody noticed. It's important to say how someone noticed, right? Okay, so I have a lot of noise. There's some work going on at the outside of my house. I'm sorry. It's nothing to do with my house, but it's on the road. It's on the street. And then interviews are not a one-way street, right? You are not going to sit there and be questioned the whole time. You have questions too. So make sure that you prepare for these questions. And what's a good way of doing that? Think of we did on your ideal job. That's Excel spreadsheet that I sent out, okay? This is a great starting point for asking those questions. And you always need to also have done your research about the company and you ask them about them, you know, or don't say what are the products and services that your company offers, because you're supposed to know that. Maybe you can ask them a little more about the product or a little more about the service, things like that. John?
And if it's a local company, just go visit the company. If you're interviewing for Home Depot and you haven't been to a Home Depot lately, just go visit them and visit Lowe's. And then you can compare and contrast.
Great point, great point. Yep. So you can ask them about, you know, career growth. What are the training points? What are the training programs they have in place? What are the potential career paths within the company? And they are evaluating you, but you can ask them, how do you evaluate success, right? That's very important to know. Who are your clients? You may see some of them on the website. You may not know about some of them. So these are good questions to ask them about. Common themes in behavioral interviews. You will see these kind of questions all the time, right? Tell me about an instance when you had to work under pressure to deliver on time. So what about, tell me about a time when you were criticized or you did not perform well. What was your most challenging project ever? And did you face conflict with the team members? How do you answer such questions? Anyone wants to give it a shot for any of these questions on how to answer any of these questions that you're seeing on the screen? How do you answer something like this? You were criticized, you did not perform well. So what did you do? How did you react? Right? So you could say, oh my God, when someone criticized me first, I was really hurt. That was your honest reaction. But then you took a step back, you thought about it, and what could that be? Like maybe you kind of didn't get to work on time and you were always a few minutes late and someone criticized you, right? So then you thought about it and you said, you know what? That is true. And you made it a point to turn your behavior around and you did it consistently enough that people noticed. And this person came back and maybe complimented you. So things like that. So never say, I don't have any weakness, I don't have any challenges. Honest, think about what it may have been and how you set it right and whether it was noticed. And what about facing conflict with a team member? This happens very often, right? So how did you approach that conflict? You didn't want to go complain to your boss right away. You tried to sit down with the person, and a very useful thing to know is never criticize a person as you, because that's not going to go well. Oh, you're doing this, you're not delivering on time. You know, you're not being very competent in the way you're approaching this problem. That's never a good approach. You need to use your project as the sounding board. Say, you know what, the project, we are not able to fulfill this part of the project because we are still waiting on input. And that person knows that person, he or she, has to give that input, and they're not. So try to use language which is not critical, but it still kind of tells the person that the project is suffering because of what they are not doing. Okay, so that's a way to diffuse. And again, these questions, this could be like a 2-hour session on behavioral interviews, but obviously we're not doing that today. And common themes in traditional interviews are, tell me about yourself, what are your goals and objectives? Very common question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. Do you know where you see yourself in 5 years? A lot of us don't know. We are not going to say we don't know. So why do they ask this question? It's because they want to know what your commitment is at the time of hiring. It's not like they're looking for a 5-year commitment, but at that point in time, they want to know that you're fully engaged in what you're applying for. So talk about the fact that you want to be constantly a learner, and you want to improve yourself, learn the state-of-the-art tools, and maybe take on higher roles and responsibilities. These are the kind of things you can say. And why should the company hire you? And then what about a role model? Always have an answer to this question, because they're going to pop it on you. Who's your role model? Who do you admire? Think of someone and also think about why you admire them. That's important. Business interactions and communications. This is, I think, something you always need to pay attention to, or what to say and what not to say. You should need to have good listening skills. Do not ramble. Do not behave too familiar. I already went through that. Do not use lingo that you use with your friends or jargon. Don't give hugs don't use text. Don't give XOXO hugs on your text messages. You do not want to be talking to your recruiter or your hiring manager with that kind of, do not text them at all. Use email, okay? Don't use humor and sarcasm unless and until you get to know people. Yes?
No politics.
No politics, no religion. No politics, no religion. And they
for the next 4 years.
And the interviewers are not supposed, they're not supposed to ask you those kind of questions either. So if someone says something affiliated to a party, or if someone says, oh, do you intend to have a family in 5 years? No, they cannot ask you this question. Just say, I'm going to work to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do what I need to do. It's not their business to ask you about those questions. So think about those things as well, right? Okay. I don't know what happened to this slide, the next one, but it seems to have, okay. So what's important in any business interaction and communication? First, after you join the job, make sure that you give a lot of importance to relationship building, how you interact with people, and the business communication language that you use, right? This is the centerpiece of any relationship and interaction that you have. So you're going to be interacting with your team, your boss, your customers and stakeholders. You're going to be doing that across geographies. Quite likely, the world is a small place. You're going to be interacting with multiple generations of people, right? Young people, baby boomers, and you're going to be interacting with different personalities. So interactions, communications, business language, whether it's verbal, whether it's written, whether it's using online tools, everything is important, right? When it comes to communications, you use social media. Do not have your colleagues on Facebook. Use them, have them on LinkedIn. Do not have them on Facebook. And don't share, even if they're not on Facebook. Employers are going into Facebook to check you out. So don't be totally wild on Facebook. That's my advice. Okay, so that's sort of the end of the session. I'm gonna share with you an evaluation form. I would like you to please spend the next 5 minutes evaluating this workshop. So I'm going to put it in chat, and it was really nice speaking to you all today and having some interaction as well. So I hope you also got something out of this, and you can take it forward with your mentors and your coaches. Okay, let me share my URL so that you can go there right now and give feedback. I don't want to push this until later because it never happens. Okay, thank you.
Jody,
for participating.
Thank you so much. That was for the coaches and the board members. Wonderful information. I've learned a lot. My daughter's getting her MBA at SMU, and I'm going to share a lot of this with her too. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm just picking up my URL to share. One moment. And I'm going to close I think I already stopped sharing my presentation, so I can close it. Okay, here you go. Let me share with everyone. Okay, so you see my URL. Final feedback. Please go ahead and fill that out. And if you have any questions, you have my email address. Any questions now? Anyone? So I usually don't share the entire PowerPoint presentation, but if you're, I can share like a handout which will touch all these important points.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We've gone a little over time, but thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all have a good afternoon.
Yeah, have a great day.
Take care.
See you in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.